Hello everyone. Today I'm sharing a Z-Fold card using Sweet Stamp Shop's Circus Life stamp set. Since this stamp set is filled with only images, I decided to take the entire set and tape it down in my MISTI with pieces of washi. Once I do that, I'll ink them all up with some Memento Tuxedo black ink on some white cardstock and stamp them out. For all these images, since they didn't come with coordinating dies, I ran them through my scan and cut, leaving a small outline around them. Otherwise, I would just have cut them right on the line, but since there is a girl that's on a trapeze, I decided that it would be a good idea to leave that outline. So I'm just coloring up all these images using some Copic markers, and I believe I have some Spectrum Noir markers as well. And for all the colors that I'm using, I'll have them listed down below in the description box as well as on my blog. But I keep everything really simple using 2 to 3 colors per area. For the circus theme, I kind of imagine using a lot of blue, red, and yellow. So you'll see that color theme throughout. But I do mix pops of color like the teal on the girl and the green on the airplane. Since there's not much going on with the coloring, I'll let you guys watch and just play some music while I color. For the card panel, I'm cutting out a top folding A2 card base, but it will be horizontal. I'll score this in half and also score the front panel of the card in half at 2 3/4 inch, and that creates the Z fold for the card. I'm also creating 2 strips that will run on the top and bottom of the card. For the bottom of the card, I'm using a 1 1/4 inch strip of black cardstock, and for the top, I'm using a strip of 3/4 inch red cardstock. I'm scoring both of these strips at 5 1/2 and 2 3/4 on the strip. And you'll see that I want this to open, so it kind of creates a boxed area in the middle of the card where that Z fold is. The portion of the strip that's 5 1/2 will go on the front of the card, and the portion that has the scored line at 2 3/4 will be attached to the back of the card. So I'm using a pencil just to help mark off where I want the adhesive to go. And so you'll see that the adhesive is only going to go at the edge of the card on both sides. So I'm adding adhesive to the front flap where that Z is and adding the strip directly to the card, and the middle part won't have any adhesive. So that scored area of the strip will have adhesive, and I will tape it down to meet the edge of this card. So I'll do the same with the red. So again, the 5.5 portion of the strip will go to the front of the card, and I'll only add adhesive to the front flap of that Z fold. The middle of the strip won't have any adhesive. I'll open this up, and the scored line will have adhesive on this, and I will attach it to the edge of the card. So this way, when you open it up, you'll see that it creates that boxed area where we can add a little surprise when the recipient opens the card. So I also noticed that the top and bottom weren't continuous with the red and black, and that really bugged me. This is something you don't have to do, but I decided that I needed to add additional strip of red and black from the top and bottom at the top and the bottom, just so everything looks continuous. Again, this is completely up to you. It's just it bothered me, so I just went ahead and did it. And I think it makes it look a lot better. But that's just me. So once I add those two additional strips of black and red, I go ahead and work on creating strips for dimension within the boxed area. I cut out another piece of 3/4 red cardstock, and I'm scoring it so that the middle portion is 2 3/4, and I think I have an inch or so on the strips on the ends where I add adhesive, and I create that area. And this is where the trapeze girl will be hanging. I do the same for the black. I just make it a little shorter so that the images I attach on the black strip will look a little closer. And I'll add all the dimensions that I use in the description below, as well as on the blog too. This just creates a little flap so we can add some images to it, and it has a little dimension. But this is the hard part of the card, just creating these little strips. So for the trapeze girl, I wanted her hanging from the top, and this is why I wanted to use a Z-fold card so I could do this. So I add a little bit of score tape just on the string, and I put it right behind the card, so when you open it up, you'll see her. And I'm deciding where to put everything else. So for the man in the canyon and the ring of fire, I'm gonna add adhesive using my Xyron sticker maker. Once I decide to do so, just run it through. And I realized that I ended up using my Xyron sticker maker for multiple images, but I did them during multiple times. It's just something that I didn't want to add adhesive to everything because I knew that some would be within the middle portion and that didn't need adhesive. So for like the seal and the little platform, I added adhesive only at the very bottom, and I'm adding it to the black strip that I had created earlier in there. So when you open it up, it kind of moves and it goes where the trapeze girl is hanging. I'll add the plane directly to the back of the card, and again, I use my Xyron sticker maker for this. And I know that it's a bit covered up by the seal, but when you open the card, the plane is in full view. And so I add the plane and I add the little puffs of smoke that follow it also through my Xyron sticker maker, and I'll add it directly to the card as well. To finish off this card, I need a few sentiments, and since this set doesn't come with any, I pulled out my favorite things stamp set. It's the All Occasions Sentiment set. It's a huge happy birthday. So I decided that I wanted to heat emboss it in white since I use black cardstock for the very bottom. So I'll line it up in my MISTI and use my anti-static powder tool to run across the bottom so the embossing powder doesn't stick to places I don't want it to. I have to be really careful because this is totally uneven because of the folds, and so I press pretty hard on the MISTI. Once I do that, I'll add my white embossing powder, make sure that there's no excess that I don't want on this card, and I'll go ahead and heat emboss it using my heat tool. So I also want to add an additional sentiment that's kind of hidden to the back of the card. I use Clearly Besotted's Best Birthday Stamp Set, and there's a sentiment that fits perfectly where I can also add my little cotton candy to the side of it. So I'll do the same steps where I use my anti-static powder tool and use Versamark ink to ink up the sentiment and add white embossing powder to it. And once I flick off all the excess, I'll use my heat tool to melt the powder. And for this, the finishing touch is adding that cotton candy to the edge of that, and it fits perfectly and it's completely hidden when you close the card. So that's it for today's card. It's a pretty simple card, except it's just a little tricky with those strips, and it's because I wanted to add that dimension for the trapeze girl to be hanging. But I hope you enjoyed this card, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.